Jewish priestess. We welcome everyone today to this home of comfort, spirit, justice, and hope. We are Unitarian Universalists. Thank you so much for welcoming us into worship and grounding us in joy. An important ritual in our Unitarian Universalist faith is the lighting of our chalice. There are many different interpretations of the flaming chalice, and you've probably heard them over and over again here in the sanctuary, but the one I really want to lift up this morning is that originally this was one of the symbols that was used in Nazi Germany to tell people that this was a safe place. It was one of the symbols that was lifted up as a way to get people from a dangerous and hostile environment into safety. I want you to hold on to that and join me in celebrating that and more as we join this morning in our prayer, welcoming, affirmation, what do we call it? Our chalice lighting this morning. We kindle this time together by kindling the lamp of our heritage. Will you join me as you're able and willing in a spirit of prayer and meditation? Spirit of life and love and hope, We gather today beaten down by forces of hatred and oppression, by the greed of corporations and the ultra-rich, and by the indifference or abject hatred of those who are elected to represent our concerns. As we wonder at the changing of the seasons, may we, like the earth, be revived. May we find flowers of hope and meaning sprouting up in our souls, even when there is still political frost in the air weighing us down. When we find safety and shelter for ourselves, those we love, and our own souls, may we remember to stretch out an arm and extend this shelter to others. We know that none of us alone can fix what is broken in this world, but we also know that each of us can add to the hope that is present. May spring be a reminder to us all that no matter how dark and cold the wintertide, our hope for warmth and light will be rewarded in time. Amen, and blessed be. Please remain seated and join us in our first hymn this morning, number 126, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. You can either use the hymnals or look at the words on the screen. It is a tradition here at the First UU of Alton to place each service within the larger sources and principles that we as UUs hold dear. We are a religion with no requirement of creed or belief, but we do have things that we affirm as a whole. The service today comes from our existing second principle. As you know, as Reverend Krista preached about last week, there's some radical shifts that are being proposed in terms of how it looks, but really at its heart, it is the same things that we have always stood for: justice, compassion, equality, hope. One of the sources that we have sort of woven into who we are as a people, but we don't often lift up specifically, is humanism. Humanism is a philosophy that stands up and says, whether or not there is anything larger than ourselves, it kind of holds that tension over there, but it says we have to act like it's all up to us. We humans have made this mess, and we humans have to fix it. We don't, as a rule, as humanists, see things like climate change as a supernatural punishment or anything like that. We see it as a problem that we have caused. And this is true for physical issues like climate change, like the various sorts of natural disasters that are happening all over, but also for emotional issues like the wave of anti-trans hatred that is going on across this country. We as UUs don't see this exclusively as a cultural problem or a political problem. We see this as a spiritual problem. It is a problem with a spiritual answer. It is not the false religiosity that holds a Bible in one hand and a gun in another. It is not the kind that tries to pray the gay away, for we all know that does not, and never has, and never will work. But what we can do is we can look and we can see that those people who hate and fear the other, at its heart, it goes right back to the spiritual problem. Love your neighbor as yourself. As a faith, as a religious way of life, we are uniquely poised to help advocate for love over hate. Not a feel-good love that just enjoys ourselves on Sunday morning, but a real deep kind of love that moves us to take action in the world. As a faith, we do this. It is in our religious history. It is the centerpiece of what we say and do as UUs. It is what the Article 2 Committee has offered us as a center of who we are. Every religion has a golden rule of some kind, although many people in many religions forget that fact on the regular. But what does loving ourselves and our neighbor look like? Dr. Cornel West says that justice is what love looks like in public. May we be filled here today with love, that we may go out and work for justice. On that vein, I invite anyone, children and children at heart, come on forward. We're going to read our book, The Golden Rule, this morning. Okay. Good morning. I love your rainbows and unicorns. I think that is fabulous. Have you read this book before? No? That's okay. It's here. So anytime you want to read it, you can just go to the library right there and pick it up. A boy and his grandfather stood on a city sidewalk looking up at the words printed on a billboard. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Grandpa, what does that say? The boy asked. People all over the world call this the Golden Rule. What does it mean? The boy wanted to know. And why is it golden? It means this. Treat people the way you like to be treated. It's called golden because it's so valuable. And it's a way of living your life that is so simple, it shines. Grandfather led the boy to another billboard farther down the sidewalk. Some people put this rule another way. Do nothing to others that you don't want to have done to you. Either way, he said, it's a very good rule. Who is it for? The boy asked. You, me, anyone can practice the Golden Rule. It's a rule that's the same for children and grown-ups. Same rule. There aren't many rules like that. Very few. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah, is that cool? Whatever their religion, people find the idea of the Golden Rule in their holy books. Christianity says you should love your neighbor as you love yourself. Judaism says what is hateful to you, do not do to your fellow humans. Islam says hurt no one, so no one will hurt you. Hinduism says this is the sum of duty, to do nothing to others that would cause them pain. Buddhism says do not do to others what hurts yourself. The Shawnee tribe of the Native Americans says do not kill or injure your neighbor, for it is not they that you injured yourself. The boy and his grandfather sat on a park bench. So, Grandpa, how can I practice the Golden Rule? Grandpa said, you begin by using your imagination. My imagination? Yes, you imagine how someone else feels. When you imagine how they feel, then you can enter into them and do the Golden Rule. Yeah, what's going on? That is great. I am so proud of you. Thank you so much. All right, can we help sing our kids out this morning with our musical blessing? for those of you who didn't hear what Ramona said this morning, she said, I'm going to make sure that if anybody in my class gets sick this week, I'll stay with them until they go to the hospital. So, great amount of empathy going on there. Speaking of hospitals and any other burdens that we gather today with, as part of our service, we always take time for the expression of joys, concerns, sorrows, and hopes. This is one more way that we are rebuilding our beloved community, not to what it was before, but to what we can become. If you would like to recognize a joy, sorrow, or milestone, we ask you to come forward. So we go down that aisle and around and up this way, and to place a stone or several stones, whatever is calling to your heart today, to represent your joys and sorrows. As we meditate and think on these joys, I would like to put forward the incredible amount of hatred that is going on for any of us that live on the Missouri side of the border. It is just heartbreaking. And I hold that, and I hold some dear friends who are deeply impacted by this. Some young people that I work with who are wondering if they'll actually be able to have the medical care they need. So I hold that. That is my stone that I'm offering this morning. And I invite you all to come forward as you will, as you need to, and place your own stones for hope, joy, and sorrow. Well, good morning again, everyone. It has been a wild few months in my house. I don't know about yours, but it always feels like the holidays just come in this giant tidal wave and sort of sweep me out to sea for a while. And I know it's almost March, but I'm still sort of trying to get things back under control. We had travel and then holidays, and then we all got COVID, and then we had more travel, and then we've been catching up on laundry from all that travel, and then packing for the next trip. And every time I have to travel repeatedly in a short amount of time, I'm reminded why I hate traveling repeatedly in a short amount of time. As we were coming back, my dear friend is fighting terminal cancer, and so we've been traveling a lot with this friend and doing things, and it's wonderful to have that in-depth time, to spend that time. But then you might have heard a little thing about Southwest and some airline meltdowns that happened, and we got caught in all of that. So we wound up on our very last trip driving rather than flying, because I just was like, we're not doing that again. And driving means an enormous amount of family time. You know, in our case, it was 17 hours in a car with myself, my husband, and our little guy who's 3.5. And that was wonderful until it wasn't. And on this last trip, you know, usually my little guy, he's a great traveler, but on this last trip, we're about 4 or 5 hours in. We're just past lunch, but not towards dinner. And he finally realizes that it is time, I guess, to utter the scary phrase, one of the scariest phrases that you can ever hear when you're traveling somewhere with a child. Mom, are we there yet? Now, I'm grateful that he is a very good traveler, and I didn't have to hear that for the next 12 hours of the trip, but it did get me thinking about travel, my expectations, and my own capacity, and thinking about all of this stuff turned into a sermon, as it often does with me. The things that I was pondering, and again, 17 hours in a car, you have a lot of time to ponder. I was thinking that travel always assumes that there is something over there worth going to. It's really only since the invention of the car that people travel on a regular basis. Even to this day, the majority of people, I think it's like 80% of Americans, have never had a passport. Now, I think that as we think about this, the people who travel, the more you realize people are people all over, right? And I think a lot of this just yucky stuff that is going on today is because people have never traveled outside of their own little group of folks. Now, not everybody has the money or the time or the ability to travel around the world, but surely we could travel across our city to talk to somebody in a different way of life, right? Surely we could engage in something else that's different from what we know. The synagogue where I'm a member, as well as here, it's wonderful that it's a Ladue synagogue, so they're kind of in a whole different financial class than I am, okay, right? Right, understatement. And all these lovely Ladue folks. We work and we do stuff with an inner city school, Monroe Elementary. Monroe Elementary, at any given time, about half of the population is homeless. And what I hear over and over again from the folks that go there to volunteer is like, I never knew. We're talking maybe 10 miles as the crow flies, right? It's not like they're having to travel days and days to get there, but it's an entirely different world, just a little ways from where they are. So travel always assumes that there's something out there worth going to and worth the hassle and the hardships of the travel itself. Second, travel comes with a built-in set of expectations for what's going to happen and what getting there is going to be like. Very rarely do we just go for a drive. Usually we're going somewhere. We have intentionality. We're going for an event, we're going for a trip, we're going for business, whatever we're doing. We're doing something when we get there, and we generally have an expectation, right? The 5,000 flights that were canceled, all of those people had an expectation they were going to go to the airport, go through the security harassment, and get on the plane. And when it didn't happen, it caused a complete meltdown for hundreds of thousands of people. So travel has built-in expectations. And third, and this is something maybe you can empathize with me on this, travel has a way of getting past my capacity to actually handle it very quickly. And it's hard because when you have chronic illness or any kind of need where you can get overwhelmed easily, it's one of those things you're always walking this dance of, do I do it and risk doing too much? Or do I stay home and risk missing out on the wonderful things that life can offer? That is often a hard balance to keep, and I 99% of the time fall on the wear myself out part of it. So do as I say, not as I do in this case, I probably say. But all of these stuff that I'm talking about, travel, right? All these things that I'm talking about, they also apply directly to our spiritual life. So you don't even have to get out of the pew, you don't have to go through the TSA nonsense, and you don't have to deal with any planes getting canceled to get the benefits of this travel. First and foremost, we are traveling, right? I think it's probably the most used, overused, beat up, and just driven into the ground metaphor of the spiritual life is that it's a journey. But the reason is because it really fits so well. Everything that we happen on a long road trip or on any kind of long excursion happens in our inner lives as well. From traffic jams and construction to intrusive policing of acceptability to the government poking their nose in places where you probably don't want them to go. It is something that many of us do regularly. Again, whether it's we're just going to work every day, we get in our car and we commute somewhere. Very few of us, since the pandemic more, but very few of us had the luxury of working from home. Most people have had most of their life a commute, and every day there's patterns, there's expectations, there's things, okay, I take this route and it takes me this long and I take this route, but there's always a disruption too, right? There's always a wreck the day that you're running late, there's always something else happening, there's always a flat tire, whatever it is, there's always these things going on, and it's the same in our inner lives. And frankly, these are the kinds of things that can build us up or tear us apart, depending on the trip, the reasons, and the state we're in. But traveling assumes there's something over there worth going to. When people are commuting to work, they believe that getting that paycheck and actually paying their bills and being able to put a roof over their head and food on their table is worth doing. Sometimes people on trips do really zany things, like waiting in line in the heat for hours because they think the ride at the end is worth it. In the spiritual life, as you use, we're traveling because we believe the world we have right now isn't good enough. We're not sitting here, at least I'm not, I can't speak for everyone, but for myself, I can say that I am not sitting here going, the world is so wonderful, everything is just roses, this is delightful. Instead, I'm saying, holy cannoli, we've got a lot to do. We have a long way to go before it looks like the kind of world I want to live in. We have even longer to go before it looks like the kind of world I want my son to live in. So we're traveling because we believe that there's something worth going to. We're traveling to the beloved community, to a place where your skin color won't get you killed, where your gender won't determine your job prospects, and where your pronouns and medical needs are respected and cared about. We know what this community can look like. Religions around the world for thousands of years have been painting us pictures of what heaven looks like, right? The idea that the lion and the lamb will lay together out of Isaiah. The idea that there will be a paradise where those who work hard can rest, where those who need will be met, where all who are hungry will be fed. We even have a map of how to get there. And funny, it's kind of like travel, it's a really straight shot. All it takes to get to the beloved community is for everyone to love their neighbor as themselves. That's it. Like, I can stand here every Sunday for the rest of my life and preach on that very thing because that's the only rule that really matters. When everybody gets there, we'll be there. When everybody says, hey, I'm going to treat other people in the kind and compassionate and wonderful way that I want to treat myself. When people who have been beaten down and oppressed realize that they need to love themselves, that is important and valuable, not narcissism, but self-care. When we get there, we'll be there. But the interstates who make the drive smooth always have construction somewhere. It seems like every time I drive more than 20 minutes away from my home, there are orange cones for miles. And I think that for most of us, we're united in our desire to get there. We want to go to that beloved community. So what is keeping us as a collective America? What is keeping us from getting there already? Every single headline this week about politicians harming the vulnerable, I just want to scream, why aren't we there yet? I just want to be there. And there's a few reasons that I can think of, because I'm somebody who likes to try and figure out what is going on in people's minds. What is making this idea seem acceptable to some people? And the frustrating thing, first and foremost, is that I don't have control. If I could control what the politicians in Jeff City thought, we would be there. Like, I would have taken care of this problem with my little magic wand and it would be great. But the truth is that I can't do that. And part of that is the idea that if everybody would just do things my way, it would be okay. This is something that is especially prominent in Buddhism, where they say that ego, your desire to control and to keep your environment the same, your attachment to being in charge, are actually factoring into why things are as broken as they are. The people in power want to stay in power because nobody wants to be powerless, right? Nobody wants to be the person that everybody else dumps on and everybody else beats up and everybody else abuses. We want to be in power. We want to have power. We want to be in control. And sometimes that manifests in crazy ways. I was at Target the other day, and this person was absolutely going berserk on the poor cashier because something didn't have the appropriate barcode. Now, folks, the cashiers don't go around the store tearing off barcodes just to make their people miserable, right? But this person in line, for whatever reason, needed to be in control so desperately that they were willing to throw the golden rule out the window and treat this other people in a manner that they would never want someone to treat them. Desire for control and attachment to power of whatever kind is a huge, huge stumbling block to living out the golden rule. Now, the people in power who want to stay in power, and this is not anything new. Human psychology has really not changed in at least the last 5,000 or 10,000 years, okay? The way they do it is they pick someone who is visibly different, and they say, they're the problem. This has happened if we go all the way back to the most ancient of empires, the cuneiform of Sumeria and Ur and all these things. And what you see is that they're pointing to their neighbor and going, see, that guy is the problem. And if we just get rid of that guy, it'll be okay. Fast forward, and this has been done over and over and over again to the Jewish people, right? Where people have said, oh, the Jews are the problem. If we just get rid of the Jews, if you just put them in a separate quarter, if you just get rid of them and drive them out of your city, if you just invoke the Inquisition and run them out of your country, it'll be okay. Now, obviously, that never has worked, and it never will work, because the problem is that we think power is what makes us happy, instead of seeing that the desire for power is what's crushing us and keeping us from going to the beloved community. Every empire in history, it is absolute. You pick somebody and you point to them and you make fun of them and you say they're the reason that all the bad things are happening. Sometimes it's women, sometimes it's Jews, sometimes it's people with a different skin color, sometimes it's a sexual minority. Doesn't matter, you gotta pick somebody and then they're the problem, right? You project all the problems onto them. And what happens is people who are already overwhelmed and have already had a lot of their power taken away from them, listen. They listen to that, and then they're willing to go, oh, it's not me. I'm not what's the problem. This other is the problem, whoever that other is. And right now we are seeing this play out in our country. There are 31 states, as last I looked, that have anti-transgender bills going through their state legislatures right now. 31! That's absolutely obscene. But see, those are people that are visible, that you can point to, that you can say, see, that person. Abortion, it's a power play. They don't care about the children. If they cared about the children, they would pay the people to raise them. They would give people food to eat. They would make sure that our children who go to school get healthy meals. Why are we cutting food stamps? Why are we cutting out our money to feed our children? You're forcing people to have babies, but then you refuse to do anything to help those babies actually become good human beings. In fact, you're actively working, doing everything in your power to make sure that they don't have the opportunity to better themselves or make their world a better place. I understand this need for power, this need for control, this ego-driven, mania, for lack of a better word, that is gripping people and has gripped us. Really, since we came down out of the trees and started walking on two legs, this is a thing people have dealt with, right? Even in the apes, our close relatives, you see that sometimes one group of apes will drive another group off so that they can have the better trees. I understand it, but I can't change it. Because I can't change someone else. No matter how much I want to, I can't force them to be better. And that's the point where I, and maybe some of you, struggle with being overwhelmed. The sense of, I just don't know I can do this anymore. Can I get up and fight another day for basic human rights that everybody ought to have already? How can I go on and go on and go on when I'm powerless to change things? And it's really, really hard. And the more pain you're in from your own life, from the own burdens of oppression that you have, the own things that you're carrying around, it becomes easy to give in to despair and frustration. And then, in your despair and frustration, at least if you're me, it becomes very easy to lash out at the people close to you because they're there and they're safe and they can take your pain. And so instead of you holding another person up, all you've done is double the amount of pain that's in your life. This happens in our churches too. When people are cranky in meetings and divided over priorities, when they fuss and fume and yell at the minister or the board chair, in my experience, it is rarely about the color of the carpet. I was part of a church one time where the church literally split over whether they were going to use cream or beige in the nursery Sunday school area. I'm not making this up. First of all, they were maybe 2 shades different, right? But second of all, it wasn't about the carpet, right? It's about people who are stressed and struggling and overwhelmed, who are desperate to feel like they can possibly live in a better world. And when that need for something better, that need for hope, that need for love, that need for community isn't met, it turns nasty and bitter and sour. And it splits and it divides people who ought to be clinging to each other like a life raft. What I have learned about traveling is this. When I know that the destination is worth the trip and the hassles of the trip, when I've done what I can to plan for my journey, then everything else is beyond my control and something I have to roll with. And that is so much easier said than done. As a community, we have agreed that we need to move. We have good people working incredibly hard to make this transition as smooth and easy as possible. And then on Christmas, the water line broke and flooded the basement and added a whole nother level of pain and stress to this journey. We believe that the beloved community is worth the struggle to get there, and we have advocacy groups and mission plans and rally leaders, and frankly, for a while there, if we can think back to like 2012, 2013, things were looking pretty good, right? We actually had a Supreme Court that said, you know what, people actually ought to be able to marry the people they love. What a novel concept. And we had people saying, hey, maybe we ought to take race into account and help these disadvantaged communities to do things. Maybe we ought to feed our kids. And then 2016 happened. And holy cannoli, that wasn't just a water line breaking, right? That was the massive sewer line breaking, flooding everything with the most gross and disgusting stuff that you could ever even think about. And now, at least for me, it kind of looks like the road to the beloved community is in this massive detour, right? Like the sewage is just spraying everywhere, and I'm trying not to have to wade through it to get to where I'm going. That's what this is. It's the nasty stuff that gets flushed down a toilet, and people these days are now trying to peddle some of this as healthy mineral water. Save the children by refusing the medical care that saves their life. Save the children by forcing people who don't want to have a child to give birth, no matter how dangerous it is for them. Save the children, but we're not going to pay for any programs to feed, clothe, house, or educate them, or in any way, shape, or form, help those people get out of poverty. This is not mineral water, and those of us who can see that, it's so hard. I look at this and I'm like, okay, so we're detouring on our journey to the beloved community, but are we sure that we're moving forward at all? A few years ago, we were flying to Germany, and the airline booked us from St. Louis to Seattle to Berlin. Now, if any of you have seen a map, right, flat Earth or no, it's still the opposite direction by a whole continent. And that, I think, is the level of detour that we're dealing with right now, right? Like, we thought we could just stop over in Boston for a little while, have a layover, and then go on our journey to the beloved community. But no, we are on this massive cross-continent detour twice, right? Because you have to go all the way over and then all the way back. But we can still get there. It's going to take an extra 25 hours and a layover in Chicago that was, oh my Lord, but you can do it. And here's the thing, I assume that we're already doing the things to try and get us back going, right? I know this crew that is sitting here in front of me and the folks that aren't here today, but I know are part of this community, we're writing letters, we're voting our votes, we're protesting in the ways that we can that are safe for us, we're giving what we can to progressive groups, and so on, and so on, and so forth. So what do we do when it's just too much? When it's completely overwhelming, we're on the wrong side of the wrong continent, and we're still nowhere close to the road to the beloved community. Sometimes what you need to do is get overwhelmed and shut down for a little while. It is okay. When you are at that point that you are turning bitter and nasty and toxic and lashing out at the people who you otherwise love, that's a really good sign that you need to take a breath and rest. And sometimes it's for a little while, and sometimes it's like for a long while. And it's okay, because it's better for you to do that than to turn into the things that you hate. Sometimes we have to take breaks. There's a big campaign right now that says, tired driving is drunk driving. And it's true. When we are tired, our ability to think and to feel and to go forward with our lives in a cognizant way, it's impaired. It's like driving drunk. So if you wouldn't do these things, if you wouldn't participate in these events, if you weren't sober, then don't do it if you're tired in your soul, because it's a way of saying, hey, I've had too much. I got to just stop. I got to breathe. Maybe you got to just pull over for a while until you're ready to start back on the journey. That's okay. We're not in a race to see who can get to the beloved community first. We're in a journey to make sure we can all get there together. People who have burned out are difficult because they can set the place on fire if they're not careful. They just keep going and going and going. And we have this problem in our churches a lot of the time where we feel like we have to do it because if we don't do it, it won't get done. And sometimes that is just okay. Sometimes to get to the beloved community, we've got a layover, and it can be a big one. But we can get there if we all take the time to make sure that we and others can keep moving forward with the golden rule. The trip is worth it. It's easy to forget as we're fighting every week, as we're in and out, dealing with the pressures of what's going on. Again, I live in Missouri, so the Jeff City just horror show that's going on, all of these things, it is so easy to get depressed. It is so easy to just be like, I'm done, I'm out, I'm moving to somewhere, I'm going to find a country that'll take my crazy self, and I'm just done. And for some folks, that is what they need to do. If they have the ability and the capacity and they're at a point in their life that they got to do. I can't say it's wrong for you, but I can say if you are willing to keep going, it's not going to be a smooth road. We're going to have detours that take us across entire continents twice, layovers that go for weeks, and we're going to wind up with some kind of giant meltdown of all the different programs and committees that we thought were going to get us there fast, and we're going to have to find alternate transport. Not just Southwest, it happens in our spiritual lives as well. So no, we're not there yet. The road is not straight and easy, but the trip is so worth it. I have had the wonder and the privilege of being able to minister to and with some young folks who are able to do things now that I, in the 80s, when I was their age, weren't able to do. Because it was illegal, because it was condemned, because it was hated on, and those sorts of things were allowed. The fact that there are people in Jeff City every Tuesday protesting is a sign that we've come so far, and we can keep going. We're going to need to rotate drivers. We're going to need to avoid the sinkholes and the broken sewer lines and all the things that are going to be in our way, and we've got to rest. We also have to budget for random repairs when things break that we don't expect. But even for all of that, the beloved community is so much better than Disney. It's so worth it. We can get there together. We just have to learn to let go of what we cannot control and hope in ourselves and in those we love to keep us going. Amen and blessed be. Our final hymn this morning is number 124, Be That Guide. As Robin passes around our offering basket, I offer you the gentle reminder that we need the gifts that you give, be they time, talent, energy, or love. There are up here on the wall all of the different ways that you can donate to the First Unitarian Church of Alton, from the P.O. Box to the Givelify and PayPal links. If there's any time or talent or availability or hugs that you have to share, please let the board know so that they can put you in a place to help. Thank you, as always, for being a generous people. Please join with me in our offering prayer. May this offering equip us to inspire love and seek justice. Okay, I was going to say, and it is time for announcements, so I'm going to pass it over to Robin.
First of all, Claudia, thank you for your on-fire sermon. With you, girl. I love you. Oh boy. All of that is exactly how I feel most days. Couple updates really quick. Building repair. I met Friday with Ed, thank you, Cardinal Catastrophe. And we picked floor tiles and all sorts of things like that. But the good news is some of the repairs that were on the list we're not going to need to do, and Cardinal Catastrophe is going to absorb the $1,000 deductible that we had, so there will be zero out of pocket for us to get everything repaired downstairs. God bless Cardinal Catastrophe. That's all I gotta say. If you believe in a God, go for it. If you don't, it's okay too. Still, He's gonna bless them. They're gonna bless them. So that's the update there. They're waiting for the deposit check, right? The 50% deposit, because we finally got our check from the insurance company, and we're waiting for that to clear. And then once that clears, I think we issued the check already. And they should get it by Friday at the earliest or Monday at the latest, and they will probably either begin this week or next week, and the repairs will take about a month to get done. So I would expect by the end of March we should be cleared and ready to go with everything downstairs, in that front. In terms of the assessment of the building, we will have Tuesday, the assessor, the estimator, whatever, is going to come in to assess the value of the building for us. It's an independent assessment beyond what their real estate agent thought we could get for the building. So this way we have a good sense of what that's going to be. And Nancy will report to us as she knows stuff on that. Met with the city in terms of the boundary, and we have an agreement on where the boundary is going to be. It's going to be basically on the other side of the tree, and the sign, probably the pillar that we have, our peace pillar, and then come directly across and back into the back of the building. And so we will have all that set up and ready to go next. We have a meeting, and we need to set up a meeting with St. Paul's UCC in Edwardsville. We've had a good conversation with them. They are interested, but they want to know more what UU is about, because they want to see for themselves if it matches. Now, their minister believes that it's a good match in terms of faith, tradition, and values. So anybody who wants to join that conversation is certainly welcome to come to a meeting. It'll probably be an evening sometime when everybody can meet. But it's one of many options we have, and we want to explore that fully. And so we'll take a look at what they have to do, what they have to offer for us, and we'll see if that could be a good relationship in terms of a place to move to. Some sadder news. If you recall, Tara and her daughter Patty that have been coming here. Tara has been incredibly sick from her, unfortunately, her exposure working as a flight attendant in the airline JetBlue she worked for years. So she's got some real systemic health problems. She has been in the hospital all week, is waiting for a room at Barnes, and she has come to the conclusion that there's just no way that she can continue to stay here without strong familial support. So once she is in a healthy, stable place, she and Patty are moving back east again to be closer to family and support. Right now, Patty is actually getting her stuff packed up, and she'll be moving back with family. She'll be moving back with family and friends back there, somebody who can be consistently able to take care of her, because Tara said, she goes, I just can't take care of her, and this breaks my heart. So we're still in touch. We're Facebook friends. She's still a member of UU Friends, and so, I know she'll keep us updated on what's going on for her, but just put some thoughts out for her and some prayers, whatever is your mode of meditation and connection with the divine, and just keep them in your thoughts and good spirits. So Tara can get better and can raise that beautiful daughter of hers. We have a birthday card for Ron Glossip that I believe is somewhere out there. I don't know where it is. Nancy has it. It might be in a mailbox, so we'll check really quick. We would like people to sign it so we can send it off to him. We're going to have a little celebration for Ron next Sunday. We're going to have a Zoom, open up a Zoom sort of coffee hour for him to come and to join and to celebrate, just because we want to honor somebody who has been such an important part of our community for so many years. So if you can please sign the card, if we can figure out where Nancy left it, and we can get that taken care of, we would appreciate it. Lastly, I know it's a lot of announcements, but bear with me. Talent night, Friday night. So plan to be here on Friday night. It's going to be a blast, and we're looking forward to having everybody here. If you have not signed up for something, please do. Or if not, just come and enjoy and have a great time. And I think that's it. Anything else anybody wants to share? I'm sorry, what? Toilets are fixed. Yes, the toilets are fixed. It was expensive, but yes, it was fixed. So it was about $1,200. Apparently what happened was there was a blockage that, where the pipes meet and then they go out to the sewer system. There was a blockage that went deeply. It's bad. So it was a lot of draining and drywall and stuff that needed to be taken care of. So yes, the bathrooms are all fixed now. Hallelujah. So, all right, that's it.
So yes, the road is never smooth, but we will eventually, someday, get there. I invite you to join with me as we extinguish our chalice. The light of truth and meaning cannot be put out. We are keepers of this flame until we meet again. May we who have love share it with those we meet. May we model the world that we want to live in, and may we lean on one another for strength as we walk, hop, wheel, crawl, and roll to the promised land, the beloved community we make with and for each other and our world. Amen, and blessed be. So before we start on our long road, one of the other important things that for somehow I just completely didn't mention in my sermon is you have to find time to party, right? So this week starts Lent. which means Wednesday, everybody's going to start fasting and praying and giving up things. But we also have before that what everybody likes to call Fat Tuesday. So we have beads for any of you that didn't get beads and need your beads. You can party it up.
And king cake. I brought king cake.